When we think about world-conquering empires, we usually picture, massive nations or historical armies. But today, in this explainer, we're unpacking the cinematic blueprint behind one of the most unstoppable corporate fortresses in human history. Welcome. We're going to take a deep dive into a company that has truly mastered the art of competing through sheer undeniable scale, relentless innovation, and a master plan that literally touches almost every single aspect of your daily life. It's a story of ambition on a scale that's honestly kind of difficult to fully wrap your head around.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a totally mind-bending reality about the very devices we stare at every single day. Think about the smartphone you might be holding right now. Even if it has an Apple logo or some other competitor's brand slapped on the back of it, there is a massive chance it is secretly powered by technology engineered by Samsung. From the memory chips storing all your photos to the vibrant OLED screen you're actually looking at, their tech is hiding in plain sight. This means they are literally profiting even when you choose to buy from their biggest rivals.
So most of us probably know them for those sleek, ultra-thin TVs in our living rooms or the phones in our pockets. But consumer electronics, that is just the very tip of the iceberg. They don't just build gadgets, they build the foundational hardware of the modern world. We're talking about everything from cutting-edge microchips to literal skyscrapers, advanced military equipment, and get this, the massive cargo container ships that transport these global goods across the oceans. They're this invisible, monolithic engine powering their own competitors and driving entire global industries forward.
Welcome to what we can honestly only call the everything company. But, they absolutely didn't start out making microchips and plotting global dominance. It's wild to track this epic evolution because they actually began way back in 1938 as a modest little Korean trading company. They were exporting dried fish and noodles. Fast forward to today, and they've transformed into an absolute global powerhouse that accounts for roughly 20% of South Korea's entire GDP. Just let that sink in. It is a strategic masterclass in building an inescapable corporate ecosystem.
To really wrap our heads around this incredible scale, we've got to look at the absolute bedrock of their corporate fortress. It's built entirely on a concept called vertical integration. Basically, instead of relying on a super fragmented, vulnerable web of third-party suppliers like so many of their rivals are forced to do, Samsung essentially just owns the factory. They own the whole shebang. They control the entire supply chain from the ground up, which lets them ruthlessly suppress costs, dictate their own timelines, and keep an iron grip on quality control across millions of devices.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates how that power flows. They're one of the incredibly rare tech giants in the entire world that can execute every single step of the manufacturing process entirely internally. They design the microscopic architecture of the chip, they manufacture the high-resolution display, they produce the high-capacity battery, and finally they assemble the actual phone. While their biggest rivals are stuck negotiating with an absolute army of outside vendors, Samsung orchestrates this massive, complex symphony completely under one massive roof.
So what does this actually mean for the market? Well, it creates a completely devastating competitive edge. When Samsung's internal R&D labs invent something completely unprecedented, like, say, foldable screen technology, their own mobile division gets the ultimate VIP treatment. They capture that absolutely crucial first-mover advantage and dominate the market's attention right out of the gate. Meanwhile, their competitors, they're left literally waiting in line, forced to buy the scraps or settle for older iterations of that exact same tech directly from Samsung, sometimes months or even years later.
Now, sheer manufacturing scale alone, that's not going to keep you on top forever. In their early days, Samsung totally mastered the art of being a fast follower. They'd spot existing ideas, optimize them, and mass-produce them. Actually, scratch that. It's more than just optimizing. They were making them faster and cheaper than literally anyone else on the planet. But as the market evolved, they had to as well. To maintain their dominance, they pulled off a massive strategic pivot. They transformed from a fast follower into the ultimate trendsetter, literally writing the rulebook for the cutting edge of consumer electronics.
Because look, scale is essentially just playing defense. To win, you need an offensive weapon. And for them, that weapon is relentless innovation. By pouring tens of billions of dollars into research and development every single year, they're just constantly flooding the market with sweeping technological breakthroughs. They're laying the global groundwork for 5G infrastructure. They're shrinking advanced semiconductors down to an astonishing 3-nanometer architecture. And they basically single-handedly willed the whole foldable screen revolution into existence. They aren't just participating in the market, they are actively forcing everyone else to play a perpetual game of catch-up.
But here's the thing. This grand strategy extends way, way beyond that phone in your pocket or the tablet in your bag. Samsung uses all of that incredible hardware to capture, hold, and absolutely dominate a totally different, incredibly lucrative territory, your home. Through their sprawling SmartThings platform, their ultimate goal is true omnipresence. They don't just want a spot in your pocket, they want to be a daily presence in your kitchen, your living room, your laundry room, and literally every space in between. They know perfectly well that we are all incredibly tired of the fragmented home. We've all been there, right? You're dealing with that chaotic, frustrating mix of gadgets from half a dozen different brands that just stubbornly refuse to talk to each other. Samsung steps in to solve that massive logistical headache. They lure you into this beautifully synced, highly convenient walled garden. Your smartwatch tracks your vitals, seamlessly beams that data right to your tablet, and coordinates perfectly with your TV, and yeah, even your smart fridge. In the business world, this dynamic creates something we call incredible stickiness through the power of switching costs. Think about it. Once you've invested the time and money to furnish your entire house with their seamlessly connected appliances, and your daily routines are firmly synced up to their ecosystem, the sheer logistical friction of leaving for a competitor becomes absolutely paralyzing. It's a brilliant, totally invisible trap designed purely for ultimate customer retention. It keeps you locked into their brand for decades.
But as you might guess, trying to be the everything everywhere company comes with a massive, astronomical cost of its own. When you actively compete in every single product category, well, you inevitably make enemies in every single category. This means Samsung is perpetually fighting a grueling, relentless multi-front war. They are constantly under siege from highly aggressive, incredibly well-funded rivals all across the globe. They simply do not have the luxury of just focusing on one single battle. Just look at the sheer scale of the technological arms race they're fighting every single day. It's staggering. In the premium smartphone space, they're locked in a totally unforgiving battle against Apple's fierce, almost cult-like brand loyalty. Then, you shift over to the mid-range market, and they're constantly fending off Xiaomi and other nimble brands competing on wildly aggressive race-to-the-bottom pricing. And deep down in the semiconductor space, they are engaged in a high-stakes, multi-billion-dollar war against specialized giants like TSMC. It's a grueling daily fight in literally every single lane. To survive all these rival armies constantly laying siege from all sides, Samsung has to pull off a remarkably delicate balancing act. They have to shoulder the astronomical, heavy-lifting costs of running massive physical factories while simultaneously trying to pivot toward developing high-margin software services. It's a massive corporate culture clash, honestly. This is a transition that has historically totally crippled traditional hardware-first companies who failed to adapt to a software-driven world. It makes Samsung's continued massive success incredibly rare.
So what's the big takeaway from this explainer? Ultimately, winning in today's tech economy isn't just about making a reasonably good product anymore. It absolutely requires combining sheer, undeniable manufacturing scale with a culture of relentless, forward-thinking innovation. By totally owning both the connected consumer ecosystem and the gritty, physical means of production, Samsung has built a monolithic corporate fortress that is incredibly difficult for any single competitor to breach. I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Is building an empire this massive, literally trying to conquer every single category from microscopic memory chips to massive cargo ships to your home appliances, is that the absolute perfect, unassailable business strategy? Or, by fighting on so many different fronts all at once, is it actually a massive vulnerability just waiting to crack under its own immense weight? Definitely something to think about the next time you look around your living room.